Good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar exploring the landscape for Australian employers under the auspices of setting up workplace wellness programs. I'm Ray Welling, Editor-in-Chief of Workplace Info and Workplace OHS, and today we're going to look at a range of issues around making sure that employees feel empowered to actually, I guess, feel well or feel unwell in the workplace, and all the programs that you might set up that will help you facilitate that. Now, joining our panel of experts today, we have Janine Walsh and Camille DePico, who are Directors of Wellness First International, and Mike Selmack, the General Manager of New South Wales Workers' Compensation for Allianz Insurance. Janine, Camille, Mike, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, first off, a couple of housekeeping issues. If you have any technical issues or you'd like to post a question to our panelists during the course of this webinar, you can do that by typing your query into the chat box in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Now, we've received quite a few questions in the lead up to this webinar, and we'll get to as many of those questions as we can during the time we have them together or as follow-up. I'd also like to point out that the information that we're providing in this webinar today is general information only, so it does not take into account your own particular work situation or your objectives or your needs. Before you act on any information contained in the discussion, you should consider the appropriateness of the information having regard to your own objectives, your work, your financial situation, and your company's needs. Now, Mike, let's start by looking at the issue of workplace injuries and how to create a wellness culture.
Hi, Ray. Thanks very much for that, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Ray said, I'll be talking a little bit about wellness in the workplace, but from a workers' compensation perspective. I'd like to start off with a quote, and the quote you've got in front of you is that people are definitely a company's greatest asset. Doesn't matter whether the product is cars or cosmetics, the company is only as good as the people it keeps. How often as employers have we actually said that? How often as employees have we heard it? I think the problem we find is that the words are said, but very often don't flow through into actions and into impacts. And the more we actually do value our company's greatest asset, who are the staff, more likely we are to retain, to keep, but also to prevent injuries and to make sure they're actually a really happy workforce and get more from them for us as employers. As an organisation, Allianz works in the workers' compensation world across the whole of Australia in all different states, whether it's in underwritten and in the fund states in New South Wales and Victoria. We handle something in excess of 100,000 claims every year. We deal with tens of thousands of employers every year. And a lot of what you're going to hear this afternoon is really anecdotal evidence or real examples of things that we have taken from employers who put in place practices that we believe have not only helped people get back to the workplace earlier, but more importantly, have prevented claims in the first place. And it's all done under the general heading of relationship management and improving relationships between employers and employees. So just to quickly run through what I'll be covering over the next sort of 20 minutes or so, we'll talk a little bit about claims and injuries. We're talking about things that employers tend to put in place normally in terms of preventing those. But then we'll talk a little bit about positive workplace relationships. What are they? How can employers impact on the relationship with their employees? What impact does it have on employees themselves? We'll then talk a little bit about claims management. And what I'd like to cover off is some real examples of things that our employers, have actually put into practice to really help their own staff and things that you may want to take away with you from the end of this presentation. So, a couple of numbers. These are the early numbers you'll hear from me during the next 20 minutes or so. So, in workers' compensation, the average length of absence for a claim is 4 weeks. The average cost of a claim, and that covers the cost of reimbursing weekly payments or cost of claims, or rehabilitation training, is around about $21,000. The most expensive type of claim, other than a catastrophic claim, is mental stress, and something that I know many people are concerned about at the moment. But the vast majority of claims still relate to body stressing, manual handling, falls, trips, slips, being hit by a moving object, which could be anything from a tennis ball right the way through to a car or something falling off a building. So these are great numbers in their own right. But what's more interesting is not the average, it's what the range is. And what we see in our world are claims that can vary from perhaps 2 weeks up to 8 weeks for the same type of injury, depending upon the employer they work for. You can see the cost of claim ranging from £5,000 or £10,000 up to 30, 40, 50,000 pounds. Sorry, giving away my English heritage there. Up to 30, 40, $50,000. And the question is, why is there such a wide variance? Why does one claim cost so much? Why does one claim take far longer to get the injured worker back into the workplace? And a lot of my premise over the next little while is that it's around largely the how the employee feels about the company, what the workplace relationship is, how they feel the employer is going to support them back into the workplace, how the employer themselves actually support their staff. So let's just quickly run through what typically are some of the key things that key factors that need to be considered where when injuries might occur within the workplace. It's clearly the workplace itself, and certainly having good, strong work health and safety practices are a good way of preventing claims. Understanding, having management environments who actually understand what the risks are that their staff undertake daily is very important. Communicating with staff is actually very important, making sure there's a sound culture. But the workplace can also be at risk if you've got the wrong processes, the wrong systems, if the work is not properly defined, if the conditions are inappropriate and wrong, if the job relating to the work to be conducted is not being properly specified. We know that those are things that actually are factors that drive the potential for injury in the workplace. What about the employee? What are the things that are more likely to impact on whether an employee has an accident or not in the workplace? So do they have the right skills? Are they properly trained? Do they know how to perform their job? If it's a manual handling job, do they know what they should be doing, how to pick things up, how to put things down? Do they have the right abilities? Do they have the right knowledge? Do they have the right skills more broadly to actually do their role? Do they understand what's expected of them? How confident are we that the job descriptions we give our staff clarify what we want them to do? And is it a surprise if it's not very clear that we have issues? What about the attitude of the employee? Do we understand why employees are in the workplace? Do we understand what they're trying to achieve from being at work as opposed to what we want them to do as employers? Do we have a view about their behavior? Does their behavior actually more likely lead to accidents or otherwise? What about the things that come in from home or from outside of work to come into the workplace? Their social behavior, their things that happen in the workplace or friends, are those things that impact on whether or not injuries are more likely to occur in the workplace? And these are all things that as employers we know and love and we work on. And generally we look at a range of activities to try and prevent claims happening in the workplace or prevent injuries happening. At an individual level, we try and ensure that there's general awareness of the things they should be doing and how they should be doing them. We try and make sure that they've got the right tools and trained in how to actually use those tools to achieve whatever objectives we actually want them to achieve. We provide training. We provide risk solutions. We do risk analyses. We get external auditors, internal auditors, supervisors to look at the risks in jobs. And we as managers, we do very good things because we go out there and we talk about health and welfare, and we talk about what wonderful things as an organization we're leading from, and we try and put good things out there regarding wellness, and you'll hear some of those things from Camille and Janine a little bit later on. But to my mind, a lot of this stuff is around words. Yeah, it's the deeds that actually make the difference. It's the things that really help us understand not just what we want an employee to do, but why they're there, how do we help them better, how do we actually get more from them, how do we actually create an environment where as an employee, they want to be there, they want to do a really good job. They know that they are able to talk about issues in the workplace. They know they're going to be supported, and they know if there's an issue or an incident or a claim, they're going to be supported both during a claim and back into the workplace. What we've found quite interesting is, and there have been a number of researchers into this, is that when companies, and we've got some research on companies where they've generally had a pretty poor claim experience, pretty poor injury management experience. When they've been pointed out what they could do better, those companies who've implemented wellness programs, or those companies who've implemented claim prevention programs and tried to make sure that they've engaged better with their staff, the improvement has been dramatic in terms of not just in terms of claims, but also in terms of turnover, lost times through sickness, and all the other aspects of wellness that we can come out. So clearly there's more to being an employer than just saying the words. There've got to be deeds in place as well. So let's talk about workplace relationships and what are they and how can they be improved. And I think it's really important to understand that there are probably three parts to how an employee perceives themselves in the workplace. And we've got to put ourselves in the shoes of the employees rather than the employer. So clearly as an individual, there are good reasons why an employee comes to work. And it's not just a matter of getting money. It's a whole range of other things. We'll talk about that in a moment. There's clearly the role and the jobs they're actually performing and the characteristics of that role, how they do it, why they do it, when they do it, which has an impact on how they behave in the workplace. And then finally, there's the company itself, the culture, the way that management and supervisors deal and treat and manage and work with their staff. And what I've drawn here is a classic, three little bubbles overlapping. What our experience is, the more that those bubbles overlap, the more that there is congruence between what the company wants, what the individual wants, and how the job is aligned to their ability and to their needs, and the more we like to see better workplace relationships, the more we like to see less illness, less absence, fewer injuries, or if there are injuries, they're more likely to get back into the workplace more quickly. It'll be lower cost, and therefore it's low cost, be less of an impact on the employer. But equally and conversely, the less overlap there is, the more we fail to understand why the individuals are in the workplace or why companies want people to do certain things and how those jobs are designed the way they are, the more likely you are to get problems. And I think that the more we understand our employees, the better it will actually be. So, employees, why do employees come to work? Now, yes, we know people need to go to work to earn a crust, to actually do the things that they want to do outside of work. But there's more to it than that. People like to be in an environment where they feel valued, that they need a workplace where they feel valued, that the self-esteem is there, that they feel they're contributing. It's also about being part of a team, a sense of belonging, a sense of competence. Why come to your company as opposed to somebody else's company? What is it that you bring to the party that they value more than one of your competitors? And I think that's a really important issue to understand. People when they work in the workplace, want to make sure that they have their social well-being. They don't want to be in an environment that's dangerous or risky, or if they are, that they're protected and that there's actually things around them to support them. Being at work also gives them a structure. We all know a lot of people need the repetition of getting up, having breakfast, going to work, having their things during the day, going home. Structure is very, very important to many, many people. And understanding that, not just in terms of the social concept of being in the workplace, but also the work content, the work part of being in the workplace, very, very important. Most people, I think, do have a really strong work ethic. They want to feel that they're actually adding value to something or somebody, themselves, or to an organisation. And feeling that work ethic is being fulfilled is really very important. Morale, we can't forget that morale is such an important part of being in the workplace. And I've been in enough situations where I've seen examples of really good morale and really very poor morale. And the impact it has not just on the individual, but on the people around them, the team, the company, is massive. And certainly making sure that you've got good morale is really very important, irrespective of what's happening actually in the overall company. And most importantly, at the end, the self-worth and dignity, that there is, that I'm a person, I'm not a number, I'm not a bum on a seat. I am someone who is valued but adding value as well. These are things that employees actually look for in the workplace and for the employer they actually work for. But does that correlate with what employers actually want? What do actually employers want? What are we looking for? Well, we're looking for commitment. We want to know that our staff are going to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning, still there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We want to know they're going to be loyal and support us. we're going to make sure that they attend and they're punctual, that they're not off having sickies and whatever else. And we want to make sure they have the right skill levels and perform at the right level, because that means they meet our objectives and our targets. The language is different. As employers, you can see that's quite different to how employees are looking at why they're in the workplace. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us as employers to actually think, well, okay, those are things, yes, we do want, but what does that mean for the way we treat and manage, support, and work with all of our staff and all of our employees? Is there a different language we use? Is there a different approach we take? Is it the way we actually transact with them day in, day out, the way we actually change the culture to actually support not only what their needs are in terms of being in the workplace, but also our needs in terms of achieving our objectives? And then lastly, in terms of the characteristics of the job, one of the things that we need to take into account of, because these are things that do impact upon the relationships, they do impact on what programs we can put in place. Understanding what the complexities of the job are is very important. There's no point in getting someone who's no good at maths to do a very complex derivatives type trading job. They will fail. The time of the day, people working at night have different kind of stress loads to people working during the day. People who work overtime, people who have heavy work commitments or have high demands on them. The degree of repetition in a role, some people can handle repetition, some people can't handle repetition. Do you understand the need of repetition in a role? Have you got the right people doing it? The emotional side of labour, is there an emotional content to the work people do? Certainly in our world, there is a high emotional content to the work that my claims managers do because of the people they have to deal with. The degree of manual exertion has a big impact on whether or not there's likely to be injuries or potential harm or problem. Social interaction that people have in a workplace, again, if it's limited, that may cause psychological issues, stress issues, and again, the working environment. Is it clean? Is it bright? Is it healthy? Okay, these are characteristics that you need to take into account, because if all of these are considered in conjunction with what you're trying to achieve as an employer, but also what employees require as a human being, we have a really great starting point for actually improving our relationships, getting people into the workplace who really value being there, and we value them and their contribution. So, what does that lead to? It's a kind of a link that if we get all of this right, if we get the right workplace environment, if we really encourage the right type of workplace and employment relationships, we actually have staff who value the quality of their work-life balance. It's one of those buzzwords people talk about but actually don't really understand. What I've just gone through gives you some of the insights into how and some of the things that we should be considering in terms of looking at both the outside and social in-company issues in terms of how to improve that work-life balance. And what we know is that quality of work life, if people feel valued, they will give you that enhanced organizational performance. That means you'll have fewer people off ill. If there are injuries, people will get back to the workplace more quickly. Very, very important. And certainly one of the key things that we really recognize in terms of both injury management, early intervention, and return to work is the key relationship between the employee and their immediate supervisor, their immediate manager. If that is good, if it's built on trust and good quality relationship, you have a really good starting point. If it's built not on that, but built on you will do what I say and end of story, you have issues, I think. And I think that's something as employers we all need to actually consider and understand. So, I'll just quickly, sorry, there's a lot of little things in here. Oh, just skip back on one. So, if we have a good workplace relationship and we have a really good workplace culture, what does it mean? What are the things that actually demonstrate that from an employer perspective? What are the things that you'd expect to see in there? Vision, absolutely important. Do people understand why we're there? Effective communication from the top all the way down through the organization, but particularly between employee and immediate supervisor. Inclusiveness and influence. Do people feel valued? Do people feel that they are part of an organization? Do people feel that their views are heard? Do they have an ability to question and challenge and change? Do they feel part of a team? People, good companies with good teamwork have far better results than those who don't. Is there respect for staff? Do we actually see that the staff are respected for who they are and what they do, irrespective of the level they are in the organization? And finally, is there a performance management framework in place that really helps employees understand why they're there, what's expected of them, but also a fair and actual view of how they're measured, how if there are issues, how it's discussed with them. So instead of being a stick over the head, is it done in an open and informed way? From an employee perspective, if you have a really good positive working relationship, what does that provide? You'll get people who are loyal. You get people who feel recognized. You get people who feel supported. They feel that they are familiar with what the company's doing and how their bit fits in. They feel communicated with, but also the ability to communicate. They feel there's trust and they are trusted. They feel that there's openness and they feel that they can be open. If people feel they have to hide things, that's not a good way of running a company. So the impact of a positive workplace is absolutely fundamental, and it really has a massive impact on employees and on employers. And just some of the characteristics, just sort of like summarizing some of that. Good job design and clarity really helps in making people feel that they are valued and communicate. Excellent two-way communication. It has to be two-way. It's not a tell and listen. Making sure you're actually employing the right staff. Have they got the right skills and knowledge to do that role? Are you able to induct them properly into your organization? Are you able to train them? Clear, open feedback of performance, not hiding it and not sacking them for not doing things right. It's actually giving the opportunity to understand what they should be doing better, training them, good performance management. Making sure your policies and procedures are up to date and making sure that they are well known, well read, and staff know what they're about. Goes without saying, excellent leadership and management is critical to this. It's not about words, it's about deeds, and leadership is absolutely fundamental to employees and employers. Good quality of reward and recognition, great training, and flexibility in the workplace. These are all characteristics of really quality companies and the ones who really see the benefits from that. That increased role clarity and less conflict is at the heart of that quality of relationship. So I just want to just finish off this a little bit before we go on to a couple of examples. What do we get from it then? So as an employer, you will see that increased commitment. You'll see that increased job satisfaction mood. You'll see that increased interest in work and people wanting to be there. You'll see the performance. Also, you'll start to see a decreased psychological strain. You'll see people who are happier, and therefore you don't have the issues that we're starting to see in many companies nowadays. You see that desire to remain working in the organization. And basically, you don't see the withdrawal, disengagement that some employers see. So I just want to cover off perhaps some 2 or 3 examples of some of the things our employers have actually done in their companies. So what you've got in front of you is a typical life cycle of a claim. Ideally, we like to try and prevent claims, but if there is a claim, then we want quality notification, quick notification. Early intervention enables us to get to the heart of the problem and start to to get people back into the workplace, return to work in some form of capacity, and ultimately closure on the claim. And just perhaps a couple of examples of some of our clients at different stages in this process. One of our clients, a major logistics company, DHL, their early intervention was really very poor. They were seeing not necessarily the claims numbers going up, but the time taken to get people back to work was increasing. And what they found were a number of things happening. That people were not recognizing early on that there was an issue. They could actually notify a claim to their superior. There was poor procedures in place. People felt worried about actually raising the issues. The company turned it around. They said, "Yeah, we want to hear from you. We want any issue which might result in a claim or not, or an accident or not, to be told to us." And they put in place a completely different notification program. People felt able to actually say to their supervisor they had a claim or they had a problem, they had an accident, there's an injury. They didn't feel as though they were being threatened by it. And as a result, whilst the number of claims didn't change, DHL saw a dramatic improvement in the return to work because the claims were being notified much earlier. As claims managers, we were able to work with them at an early stage to actually understand the injury, put in place better practices to actually get back into the workplace. And so as an employer, by encouraging people to talk out, by actually putting in place those notification practices, by removing the fear from it, they actually had a far better claim management experience as a result of it. Another of our clients, Penrith City Council, this is a really great story. City Council, they have a lot of care centres. We were seeing a lot of claims coming through for back strains and problems in their childcare centres. And when we actually analysed it with them, we identified that virtually all the claims were from people who were picking up babies to actually change nappies. Something as simple as that. And they were bending down to the floor, because that's where the babies were. They're picking them up, and they're putting them onto tables. And that was causing problems, because they weren't being trained how to do it properly. We worked with them. We actually paid for a number of tables that actually were on, could move up and down, so that tables could be lowered to the ground level. Babies could be put onto the table at the ground level, and the tables were then raised to the level where the staff could actually work with them, changing nappies. We have not had a claim yet since they put those in. Then one final one, which actually shows the difference pre and post. Major education institution in Sydney. Over the last few years, they've gone through 2 downsizing programs. The first one they did themselves, and they had major problems in the way they handled it, and we had a significant number of stress and related psychological claims coming from that. The second downsizing program, we worked with them to understand what they're trying to achieve, to work with them in terms of communication program, in terms of making sure all their HR practices were up to speed, to make sure they understood what they were doing, how it was going to be documented. And in the second round of downsizing, they ended up with only 1 claim coming through, which in the end we were able to demonstrate wasn't related to that actual downsizing. So we know good practices prevent claims, good practices actually get people back to work early, good practices actually encourage staff to talk better. So just to sort of quickly round off, building positive relationships, I think, will facilitate and inform the engaged workforce. They really help companies manage change. They reduce injuries. They certainly encourage early recovery and return to work. They increase productivity of employees, which is what we want. And overall, it reduces long-term costs. So continuously working with staff really helps remain an asset to your organization. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks very much for that, Mike. That was a really interesting example about, in particular, about Penrith Council, how a simple action can have such a dramatic effect on both injuries and claims. Now, Janine, let's look at the issues of attrition and sick leave, and these are things that may or may not lead to injury claims. Now, this concept of workplace wellness is a term that's developed to describe programs run by employers to support employees so everyone can maintain strong physical and mental well-being. It's a really interesting area, but maybe you could start off by telling us, how did you become involved in workplace wellness?
Yeah, sure, Ray. My background is corporate, high-end banking and finance, and for 31 years I was there, right there with all of what was happening with mergers, acquisitions, change management, and lots of issues, and growing businesses, and very fast-paced, and also, a very stressful environment, sales and service, and all of the things that go with that. And the old adage every year was, as it came through from the finance area, was to do more with less. Yeah. So, and that word hasn't gone away, and it continues. And I used to, the old adage of there's the 2 things, death and taxes, and I said, yeah, well, there's death, taxes, and change. So there's three major things that are happening in our lives. And what I found in that period was that I had some great successes, and I'm very pleased to say that I recognise that the importance of our people. And we go back to what Mike said, and kind of he started where I was going to start, about this thing about the people is our greatest asset, and there is no doubt about that. But to keep the finance guys happy, it's also our greatest cost. So you've got those 2 sides, our greatest asset, but also our greatest cost. And I would always say, well, if it's our greatest cost and our greatest asset, why aren't we as organisations doing more to look after our greatest asset? Because it's costing us so much. Because I was always constantly reminded of that fact, because where people would want to cut was in my people. So I, at a very early age and an early start in my career, realised that the power of the people and the value of the people. And I've always been very very proactive about good training, good environment, you know what I mean, so products, procedure training, give them the best systems they can have to do their jobs. But I was also very, very, very mindful about helping them as individuals. So that was really in my kind of my work DNA. And I had great success. So I was always pleased to have the lowest turnover in staff and the lowest absenteeism, because I worked a lot with doing things for the people over and above the things that, and you know, so taking it the next step outside of just building a great environment and a great place to come, it's about also working with the people. So when I stepped out of my corporate landscape in 2000 and set up my own consulting practice, I actually then worked with a lot of organisations, from very small to very medium, right up to federal government agencies. So we went from really small organisations, same thing, same issues. It's about human beings, it's about people, and I could really see that there was a lot of gaps in that. Fortunately, I met now my business partner, Camille, in 2004, and she presented. I was on a business council board, and she presented about the concepts and the building blocks of health and well-being, and it really resonated with me, because I could see that we just weren't doing anything. There wasn't a lot happening in this space. So we got together, and I said, look, I have this concept. You have the plan, you have the how, and so that's really where it all started. So in 2005, we kicked off Wellness First, and we rolled it out initially, would you believe, to our first our proof of concept, as you could say, to see whether really we were on the mark. Here was one of the other board directors on this business council I was on, was a director of a TAFE college. And the words he said to me is, Janine, what are you doing? I told him. He said, I love the idea. He said, I really want to do something for my staff. He said, they are under siege, and I value them, and I want to do something for them. And they're the key words that really got it started. So from there to where we are now is really why, this is why I'm where I'm at. If you'd have said to me 10 years ago that I was going to be doing this, it wasn't on my radar to do it as a business, but here I am. And yeah, 9 years later.
So you moved from like general consulting, if you like, to a laser-like focus on this
absolutely.
issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because you know I'm passionate about that, and I could see that we could get the results for organisations that I had some minimal, you know, but now it's more focused and a targeted approach to the wellness concept.
Right. Okay. So tell us, what are some of the main issues that are faced by Australian businesses today relating to this?
Okay, well, let's just set the scene here, because these are the buzzwords that are running around, and these are the things that, you know, people come to us about, because, you know, the high levels of absenteeism, and now the latest word in what everyone's mantra is the presenteeism. And so what's this word, presenteeism? Okay, it's about people presenting themselves to work. So what's happened and what the trend is now, absenteeism used to be the big thing. Well, prior probably to the GFC, it was more turnover, because people were losing staff, but that's kind of decreased because of people are not moving out of their jobs as ready to move out. So they're actually staying, but they're staying in a job, but they're actually not performing at their optimum level within that job. So they're either attending work because they are worried about the fact if they don't, they might lose their job. So they're coming to work sick, and so they're there, but they're not performing at optimum level. They are putting in long hours. So as I said, they're putting in face time, but they're not actually performing. There's people are working at reduced levels because of other distractions. You see a lot of this, the social media browsing, and, you know, we've been into organisations that say, you know, that they're trying to control that. They're not focused on the job. I kind of used a bit of an adage sometimes. It's the people that have they've quit but they've stayed. So that is really causing a lot of issues in that they're there but they're not there to that optimum. Okay, so so what you could do, you've got those there's some costs there. Look, we've put some costs up there for you to have a look at. You see, absenteeism is really, you know, on an average, it's costing there on some research that we've picked up is 24 billion. So these are big numbers. An average of 6.5 working days of productivity are lost on staff. But then you look at the one on the presenteeism, it's 34 billion, and that's growing, and so that's the big one now. Now, a lot of that there, there's, as I said, there's research there that we've garnered on that. You've got on a global basis, you've got also the fact is. So you've got the absenteeism, the presenteeism, you've got then the situation of engagement. So, you know what I mean, I'm there, I don't really want to be there, I'm not engaged in the job, as you say, you know what I mean. Mike put some really good strong points there in his topic. You know what I mean, culturally, you know, do they like their job, do they feel valued, do they, are they communicated to well, you know what I mean, like, is it micromanagement, is it, you know what I mean, so it's all those things that cause that disengagement. And it's interesting when you start looking at some of the figures that come out, that 21% of employers surveyed report that they're actually engaged. They actually really do want to be there and do want to do their job. Some are partially engaged. There's low levels of, and then that kicks on to poor performance. So it's all kind of a secular thing that's happening with us now. So you've got, you know, you've got, why is engagement important? It really is. They're the face of your organisation, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's your customers contact your staff if it's front facing or if it's back office and they're dealing with issues, or in contact centre world, you know, there's hundreds of thousands of people there dealing with the customer. You know, you get the first opportunity is to connect with the customer, and that customer really, you know, connects and says, well, yeah, you know, am I really talking to someone that really wants to talk to me? You see now, as a lot of people say, please stay on the call because we want to do some research. How was your question answered? You know, they call it, you know, there's a system, a net promoter score, and people are judged on that. How well was the call handled? You can tell, people can tell, you know what I mean? Like, I've been in the customer service and a business, you know, you can tell whether you walk into a shop front or you're dealing with people, whether they really do want to help you as a customer. And customers now have been very, very highly educated about our expectations. So engagement is really important. You know, they really represent the organisation. It's a good place to work. They'll talk about where they work. They'll be proactive. There's customer satisfaction. There's loyalty. You know what I mean? You can tell people who love their jobs. They just love their job. You can even tell, and you can talk about the morale. You know, you can walk into an organisation and you can tell whether an organisation is really feeling good about themselves and the staff are feeling good about themselves. Productivity's up. They're happy to be there. They're doing their job. Boss is happy because that's what they want. They want you there. I want you to perform at your optimum. The staff come because they really like they feel valued. They're part of the team. They're culturally engaged. And there's such an impact on an organisation, you know. So yeah, so it's an important part of where we're at, and it's kind of, you've got to look at it all in the big picture. So you've got, the other thing is the cost of stress. Now, you know, we talked about, and as I'm sure that Mike's got many a claim on that, the stress claims. And it's interesting, some recent research that's just come out from WorkSafe Australia is saying that it's $10 billion a year on just the mental stress, not just on stress. You know, you've got probably a figure around, I think it's about 14 or 15 billion a year that's being claimed on stress claims, but 10 million of that is based on mental stress. So there's something that's an alarming figure that's coming through.
It's growing, you think?
It is growing, yeah. And you know, I know, and I'm sure Mike can support that from where he sees it at the claim side of it. So, you know, I mean, I'm kind of painting this picture, and you know what I mean. We know it's there, but we can't ignore it. We actually have to do something about it. So it's important that we be more proactive about what we do as organisations and get hold of this and try to manage this in the best way.
So what can you do?
Okay, what can you do? Okay, look, you've got a situation whereas if you look at your company, you can look at it. You've got some there's up on your screens now. You've got healthy employees are 3 times more effective. So let's get healthy employees, right? You've got these hours there. They don't work as much compared to the healthy ones. The unhealthy employees are 9 times more likely to be absent. You look at the absence there, and some of the reports I've seen is you've got the mental stress claims. You know, I mean, they're averaging at least 2 weeks off minimum before you even try to get them back to work. You've got their sick leave days, 18 days. You've got 2 days for a healthy employee. And you've got then people who exercise more regularly perform at a better rate. You say 4 to 15% are better. So there's things you can do in an organisation to start to look at what is driving some of these outcomes for you as an organisation. How can you improve the situation? So you've got to sit down and look at holistically where you're at as an organisation. What are you doing? What you're not doing? You can completely ignore it, and I'm telling you, it won't go away. You can do some things, you can do many things, or you can then stage what you do and how you do it. So it all depends on really where you're at with workplace wellness, and you can sit down and you can just take a holistic view of where you're at and do something. You know what I mean? Like we can give you a list, and we have many examples of what some people do. You don't have to be a small company or a big company or a mid-size. If you have people, you can do something. It doesn't mean because you're small doesn't mean you can't do something. There are things you can do to improve your work.
Well, that's important to know. Yeah.
So you've got a situation here as I've put up here an explanation. I've tried to explain, people say workplace wellness, and really I came across a really good one from Harvard Business Review, and if you see that, you know, it's defined as an organised, employer-sponsored program that is designed to support employees and sometimes their families. And it's interesting because what we do, and in our programs, and especially in our face-to-face programs, we get a lot of feedback from the attendees who say, "Oh, what you've shown us here today, or helping us with, is really going to help me and my family." So it's a takeout. It's not just about the job hours. It's a lifestyle that they change. So it really pushes outside the organisation. So it's important to know it just doesn't stop from the clock in, clock out side of the whole giving some people some assistance in showing them their wellness, how to create a better environment, how to help them. So you look at that, and it sustains behaviours, it reduces the health risks and obviously the accidents, and improves the quality of life. You can just see the difference, and we've seen the difference in people as we've come back into organisations, the change in the whole attitude and the feeling, the effectiveness, and that's actually, I liked that. That's why I put that up there. So it's a good explanation on really what it is and how we like to present what work. Focuses on the individual behaviour, and it also focuses on an organisational level, because it's one goes hand in hand. It's important. It just can't be, the boss says, we are now going to have a wellness program, go forth and be well. There's a little bit more into it than that. So it's the two coming together and looking at what they can do as an organisation. Yeah.
Okay. So from the employer's point of view, first up, what are the benefits for them from setting up a wellness program? Why should they go to the time and trouble?
Yeah, okay. Probably going back to my initial slides, if we look at, if you want to go to the dollars and cents, if you want to really cut to the numbers, yeah, there are beneficials in the numbers. You've got better performance and productivity, which is what if you've got your You know, I'll stick the boss's hat on. I've been there, done that. That's what I wish to say. I want you to come to work and I want you to perform at your optimum. And what have I got to do to make that happen? Okay? And so that's what drove me to actually see the benefits of programs like this. I need you there. I need to not have you on extended sick leave. So you need to have you've got to decrease the frequency and cost of workers' compensation, or claims. I should probably say, Mike would probably say yes, we all have to have workers' comp, but it's the claim side of it that's the real kicker here. The improved morale and the satisfaction and motivation. As I've said before, I'm probably repeating myself, but I've got to say it. We've worked in organisations that do what the wellness programs, and they really value their staff and they are committed to it. You can see the difference where you walk in and there's nothing happening. There's never been anything happening, but that doesn't mean you can't start. You can start, and there are things you can do. You've got a better corporate image, you attract better people, you've got retention of employees, and you definitely get back to that engagement and the employee relationships. So, they're the benefits for the employers. Okay.
Okay, and so
look at those numbers. There's some numbers. You spend the $3 to $5 returns. So I just preventive health practice are more cost effective. I can't say it any clearer than that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good to see that there are both, economic as well as psychological benefits from that for the employers. How about for the employees?
Yep. So there you are. Health and awareness and knowledge, increase of physical health. You get people with more energy. You've got much happier people. You're increasing job satisfaction and morale. These are all the things we've seen. You've got that, and this all goes back to when my kind of built the model, and I'm reinforcing these. This really does work. It really, these are points, and now there's two of us now coming in from your end there, which is very much linked in with what we do and what we see. Healthier lifestyle. You see much better practices and how they come to work and they want to be at work, how they present themselves. They celebrate their successes in teams. We've seen some real turnarounds, and it's been wonderful. You know what I mean? We've worked with people, and like I can tell you stories about, we've started workshops and we've had people a real pushback. I'm telling you now, no, this is not for me. By the time they've come in and done it, and our programs don't hurt anybody. No one gets embarrassed or anything like that. We work very much, and it's a very, very open and friendly way we do things. And initially you've got people. There's some remarks that I've remembered. Some people saying in our workshops, "I never eat anything green."
Oh,
there you go. Yeah, true. And we've had that. I don't drink water. And it's really and I mean it. They do not drink water. Water does not touch their lips. And we do a whole thing on hydration and talk about the power. What we do is it's not hard. It's really actually an educational, and it's setting some things. It doesn't cause a great amount of. But when they do this, you see the difference in people. You see them coming to work, and they've got the water bottles, and they're drinking water during the day, and they're more active, and they're really kind of taking things on that's not too time invasive, because you push back, I'm too busy, I can't do this. But when you see that, you start to see the benefits. And they go, wow, I like working here because people do value. It's about me, and I know that people will come to us and say, I really, really appreciate it that this company values me this much, that they'll do these extra things for me, and it's not just about the job. So yeah, it's very powerful.
So could you give us maybe a couple of quick examples of a smaller organisation and a larger organisation, and what happened and what the impact was?
Yeah. Okay. We've had rightio. So we'll start with a smaller organisation who, and yourself, if you're running a small organisation, you just need one person in a small team to not be present or not performing, and it can be catastrophic to your outputs. So you know what I mean. We go in and we'll sit down and talk to an organisation. You know what I mean. You've got essential steps up here. The important thing is, can I just set the scene here? It doesn't matter whether it's small, medium, large. It's a top-down thing. Okay, so it has to be led top-down, and that's how we've always approached it, because there's nothing worse than the boss or the CEO or the MD or whoever to say, you will do this because I think this is really good for you. And that's the last time they ever hear or see from him or her. Okay, because it's words, once, as Mike said, it's words, it's not actions. So the best way that we've actually seen and the best results we've had, whether it's small, medium or large, is it's top down and they're involved. So they are advocates of the program. They have, they support and they participate. Okay, you know what I mean? And we get them out of their comfort zone. We've taken away even a senior group of in an organisation and a team of their direct reports, and taken them away off-site, which is quite challenging, for 2.5 days, and they've had to live our program for 2.5 days, which is an extra piece of what we do, but it was quite challenging for these people to let go and not be worrying about what's coming through on the iPhone, you know, what's happening in the world, da 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 da. It's about thinking about what they're doing. Now, this can be done at any level. Now, the smaller organisations we've had success for is able to bring out the whole team, and virtually the really good one is it was a small corporation, and it was CEO down. And virtually the day was put aside to work with us and the CEO was there and worked through the program. Okay, very impactful because the staff say they really believe this. So it sets the scene, it gets the momentum going, and the best thing is we've found we would work with the individual companies and say, now let's do an assessment first. Let's have a look at where you're at. What can we do? What's your budget? And then also let's have some champions within your organisation who also can, when on site, can drive the program. So it's not like like we come and go and then that's it. It's not like the old adage, Elvis has left the building and it all stops, because momentum has to be kept. So everywhere we've gone, in the small, medium and large, we've always had a champion of the program. So it doesn't matter what that organisation is. We have also found that collecting of the data, we find that if you have a starting point, where are you at, and where are you going? We also then put action plans in, and then we do implementation, and we do evaluation and feedback. So it's a loop, a constant loop. So it's not a one-stop shop. So the mid-size, same methodology. It's probably, once again, you can probably engage most of the corporation or the company because of the size. The bigger organisations, it starts more in a divisional part because of the size of the organisation. And if you've got really good drivers of senior management with divisions, and we've worked with some of the top 100 companies in Australia, and you get some really passionate people who do walk the talk. They believe in what they're doing. They are passionate about having happy, healthy people, and they've got great successes. And they're not only successful in wellness they actually are award-winning. They're customer-focused. They're recognised for that. They get all these kick-on effects because the people love coming to work, and it shows, and they do a good job. So it doesn't matter. Size doesn't matter, right? You know what I mean? We've worked from like 5 people up to tens of thousands in groups. You know, we don't get in front of tens of them, but we do it in slices and dices and in different ways. So we do face-to-face, and then we do some online, and we do, you know what I mean, and we do visual. We come back into an organisation, and so
you mentioned a number of things like you know, drinking and eating, and mindfulness and that sort of thing. What would you say are the most important key components of a wellness program?
Okay, have a look. The key components, it depends on who you are, where you are, and what you can do. Okay, so it's virtually sitting down and saying, right, what have you done? Have you done anything? Are you doing anything? What have you got in the environment? What's your environment look like? What can we add to that environment, enhance that environment? What can we do for your people? So it's really doing, the key components is initially an assessment. Go in, have a look, to be open about what's available, and really having a look at, and that's the success we've got, you know what I mean? And just saying, okay, you've done this, this, and this. What about this, this, and that? We can work with you on this, this, and that. You know, so it's really doing an assessment. The assessment is really where you start. It's you know, don't get me wrong. I laud the fact is, you know, you go to some places and they've got a bowl of fruit on the table in the break rooms, but that's it, a bowl of fruit, and there's no purpose around it. It's like somebody gets free fruit or subsidised fruit. There's more to it than that. That you can build on that. That's good. It's a good step. I'm not knocking it, but you know, you can do things that aren't too hard, and can become part of yeah. So it's really the starting.
For example, what are some simple things that if a company wants to, you know, start making those steps?
Okay, good quality filtered water. Hydration is one of the most important things. It's our first module in our programs, getting people to drink water. And the success of that is phenomenal on an individual, on their thinking, on their health, their well-being, their energy level. Simple as that. Water, hydration. Easy, not hard to do. Encouraging people. We have organisations that have even purchased the water bottles so that they've actually got them on their desk. So it encourages them to take water to their desk, drink, be conscious of that. Simple step. That's not an over-expensive. Walking groups. You know, they go out at lunch and they do walking groups. They supply them even subsidised pedometers. So it's a bit of a fun thing. Take the steps. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, so they're not hard. That's not hard. Use the stairs. We tell people in buildings they've got stairs. Don't use the lifts up and down. Use the stairs when you go between floors. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, so there's a lot of...
Yeah, there's lots of things you can do. And, you know, it depends where you are and what you want to do. And, yeah, budgets, obviously. These are... Yeah.
Okay. Well, looking at the time, I think we've actually managed to cover a lot of ground, and we're running out of time at this stage. So for those of you who publish questions ahead of time, we will be doing follow-up and trying to answer as many of those individual questions as we can. And at the same time, following the webinar, you will be getting some downloads that we'll be emailing to you that will give you some things like checklists that both Janine and Camille and Mike have put together about a lot of the issues that we've talked about today, and some simple ways to start promoting wellness within your organization. So, look, I'd just like to thank Mike, Janine, and Camille for your time, and we really hope you found it useful. Now, please feel free to drop us a line at editor@workplaceinfo.com.au if you have any follow-up questions, or if you would like to get more information about the services that Janine and Camille and Mike have to offer. And also make sure you log on to Workplace Info and Workplace OHS for the latest information on compliance and best practices for HR, IR, and work safety professionals. Now, if you want to revisit today's presentation, an archive will be published on our YouTube channel to watch and listen to at your leisure. We'll be sending you the URL to that archive in our follow-up correspondence. And as I mentioned, you'll also be getting a download pack that will give you access to a lot more background information. So just briefly, our next webinar will be on Wednesday, the 4th of June, and we'll be dealing with the year in review top issues in legislation, where we'll be taking a look back at changes affecting Australian workplaces over the past 12 months and how they've affected the landscape for employers. We'll be looking at things like Fair Work Act amendments, corporate tax regime changes, MySuper, the Modern Awards Review, and amendments to the Privacy Act. So I'd just like to thank you for your time today and wish you all the best of luck with your work.